I've talked for a little while now about how everything is sort of there in front of Samsung to have a really, really nice performance with the Galaxy Z Fold 7. The OnePlus Open 2 is just not going to be a thing. The only device they're competing against is the Pixel 10 Pro Fold. We've now seen the renders that show that the Pixel 10 Pro Fold is just not changing basically at all. The dimensions, the size, the shape is all the same. The camera system is exactly the same with one small change. And if we're honest, that small change to the primary camera sensor going from a Sony IMX787 to a Samsung GN8 is a very, very small change, likely to be a lateral change. You're not going to see any like crazy improvements to performance unless the software just gets a whole heck of a lot better. And, at the same time, word is that the Z Fold is basically going to be the Z Fold Special Edition. It's going to be a lot thinner, now thinner than the Pixel 9 Pro Fold or the Pixel 10 Pro Fold is going to be. It's got the 200 megapixel sensor. Everything is kind of stacked in their favor. But there's one thing that Google could do to counter that. And it seems as though if these rumors are to be believed, Google is about to do exactly that. If we go to this article on Android Headlines where they initially showed the renders for the Pixel 10 Pro Fold, and yes, that is the 10, not the 9, they had this little closing paragraph that I think got missed by a lot of people. Other sources have indicated that the Pixel 10 Pro Fold will be offered at a lower price point this year. Now, they didn't give any more details. It was kind of vague, just threw it out there at the end. But it seems as though Android Headlines has been doing some digging because they're back again now with some information across the board of the Pixel 10 devices. And I took their article, which was a little bit meandering for my taste, and I tried to just sort of condense it down into a couple of bullet points, and that's what I've done here, and that's what we're going to go over. So we're going to get to the Pixel Fold, but let's get through the other stuff first. So first off, they're saying these are all rumors coming from their sources. Take it all with a pinch of salt. The smaller Pixel Pro model will remain part of the lineup through at least 2028. So they're going to have an A series, a Pixel base model, a Pro, Pro XL, and a foldable through 2028. There have been some talk among fans that maybe that smaller Pro model doesn't really make a whole heck of a lot of sense to be there. They seem to disagree. The A series models will remain $499 through the Pixel 12a. So they're going to try to stick to that price point. We start talking about prices. That's where things get kind of hard for me to always believe because we're shooting way off into the distance and we are having weird things happening with tariffs all the time right now. So who knows what prices are going to be tomorrow, let alone in 2 or 3 more years. The Pixel 10 and 10 Pro models could see price increases of around $100. That's not super shocking, although it is disappointing. The Pixel 10 Pro Fold could be priced around $1,600, with their goal being a $1,500 Pixel Fold by 2028. This is the rumor. They are aggressively trying to get the price of the Pixel Fold down. This definitely flies counter to Samsung's apparent strategy of using the flip phones as a cheaper entry point, and then even creating, rumored at least, an FE version, a cheaper version of the Z Flip 7. Google is just saying, we're just going to make our Fold and try and bring that price down. And that might explain a little bit why the camera hardware is staying the same, why the design is staying the same. They're basically just going to be swapping in that new processor, and not a whole lot else is changing. I should at least point out that the SIM tray has moved, and they're also adding another speaker to the bottom of the device. It's not that nothing's changing, but very, very little is changing, and perhaps that's the point, to bring those prices down. So if all of this ends up being true, we could be looking at a $499 Pixel 9a, an $899 Pixel 10, a $1099 Pixel 10 Pro, an $1199 Pixel 10 Pro XL, and a $1599 Pixel 10 Pro Fold. That could be the lineup. Now, like I said, seeing some of these prices go up, not super shocking to me. Seeing the Pixel Fold price go down amid all of the tariffs that are going on, that's just difficult for me to believe. So I'm just going to throw this out here right now before we go on any further. My gut tells me that this just is not going to wind up being true. Maybe I'm wrong. You know, Android Headlines has broken news quite a few times over the years, and maybe they have a great source, and I'm just going to be wrong myself. But this is very hard for me to believe. That being said, if it is true, if the Galaxy Z Fold 7, for all of its hardware improvements, you know, One UI 7 is looking great. It's going to launch with One UI 8, so it's going to be caught up in terms of software. It's going to be thinner than the Pixel 10 Pro Fold with a much, much higher end primary camera sensor. It's going to be about the same size in terms of those inner display diagonal sizes. It's going to have a standard cover display for all of these hardware improvements, and it's going to have a much faster processor as well. If it is indeed $1899 and the Pixel 10 Pro Fold is $1599, there's a $300 difference. That is absolutely in the range of a price difference that's going to matter to people. A long time ago, I ran a poll basically kind of trying to gauge when you're talking about an $1,800, $1,900 phone, does $100 matter to you? Most people said no. The number where people started to say, yes, that is enough to sway my purchase was $300. That was the line that I came to, and that's the rumor now that Google's going to try to undercut Samsung by $300, and that would absolutely matter. The only real question that you would then have to have is, how much does Google have to sacrifice to get that price down and then to keep it there? Do they feel like they've pretty much achieved the hardware design that they like and they're just going to iterate on that? Pixel 10 Pro Fold's going to look the same. Maybe the 11 looks the same. Maybe the 12 looks the same. And that's how they keep that price lowering further and further down. Do they continue chasing thickness at all? These are all things that you definitely have to worry about. And look, I'm not somebody that thinks that every folding phone has to be as thin as the Oppo Find N5. This is just an incredibly refined piece of hardware. It doesn't have to be that, but if you're the only foldable that's over 5 millimeters and everyone else is in the 4.5-ish range, you are going to start to look like the cheaper phone. And you literally would be the cheaper phone. And I'm not sure how advantageous position that would be for Google. Of course, we're probably getting a little bit ahead of ourselves here, talking about price leaks for a series of devices that have not actually been officially even announced yet, and then speculating about prices for the follow-up to the follow-up of that device. We won't have to wait too awful long to find out exactly what's going to happen with the prices of these Pixel 10 devices. And let me just tell you, if it really is $300 cheaper than the Galaxy Z Fold 7, that is going to make things very, very interesting. And I'd love to hear your guys' thoughts in the comments down below. Would that be reason enough to get you to go for the Pixel, even though you were leaning towards the Z Fold? Again, talk about it in those comments down below. Check out the article over on ShaneCraig.tech, linked in the description down below. Subscribe for more content just like this. And until next time, stay nerdy, my friends.